Hey. Hello. How are you doing tonight? Running late. Got some gremlins in our technical equipment. So we had to back up to three things. We backed up first to the phone. The phone didn't work right because the studio's not working as it's supposed to. And then we went ahead and where do we go?
To the laptop.
To the laptop. So we're
Yeah.
on the laptop right now. We're on the laptop. So
Well,
welcome.
we're here.
Exactly. Welcome here for all those who were waiting for us. This
And
is
sorry for the delay.
this is taking the journey. Sharon, you want to start together? Exactly. And I still got to handle some other technical stuff.
I
So
know.
why don't you get us on board and tell us who we are and what we are and all that other good stuff.
We are Craig and Sharon Butts. We are taking the journey together. And for those of you who don't know, we say this at the beginning of all of our shows. The premise on which we are based is the fact that we are going to relate. It doesn't matter what your mother, father, sister, brother, anyone says, we are going to relate. And the expectations or the driving force for taking the journey together is that we relate in a balanced manner. And that balanced manner has to do with finding your friend, falling in love with your friend, making that friend your lover, and having friend and lover in one person, and having that type of a balanced relationship.
Exactly. We are kind of off balance today because we're looking at ourselves through the laptop, which is very unusual. So I don't know if you see her more or you see me more. Hopefully, it's a little bit equal. And I don't even know why I have the mic near me because I'm not even talking on the mic because the mic is down and we're talking through the laptop. So much for that. Wow, isn't that something? Well, I wonder if I look better with my glasses down. Oh, I can't see that far. Anyway,
Well, I guess you should keep them up there.
We should.
Yes.
Thank you that we have, of course, on this great station, ATR doing their thing as for digitally, sending us through all of those electronic digital things that go all out around the world and come to you on your phone and your laptop or your desktop to get to see us do our thing again. We got an engineer in the background who's two engineers this time in the background kind of helping us out. It's going to keep us straight, hopefully, if all possible, through our show.
Yes.
Looks like we got some people that we've seen before. I think, I don't know if we got any comments as of yet, but if you are some of the same people that have been on the show before, make sure you say some comments. Hey, there's our engineer. He just popped up a few minutes ago. He should have said hi. But anyway, if you have some comments you want to say already, or just say hello because you've seen our show before, even though we have not been live a couple of times, please go ahead and do. We love your comments. We also love to get feedback from people who are actually watching this too. So go ahead, Sharon. What is our topic today? What are we going to talk about today?
Our topic today is self-love. Reviving your memories will make you fall in love with yourself again.
Reviving those memories.
Yes.
What kind of memories are that we're going to be revived?
All the good things. It's kind of like Sankofa.
Mm-hmm.
The Sankofa principle, as you go through your relationship, you need to take time out and deal with the positive things from the past, the things that make you smile, the things that make you laugh, the things that make you want to hug your partner again. All those things that are for uplift that happened in the past are sometimes enough to jumpstart where you are today, because sometimes you get into a rut when you're in a relationship because you get focused on all kinds of other things.
So we're going to actually talk and expand upon what she said when it comes to self-love, because most of us hear about self-love more in a let's say how can I say it, self-help physical kind of way, taking care of the body, taking care of the looks, making sure you eat right, that kind of
one-sided, more self-centered type of self-love.
Yeah, exactly, which is okay to a certain extent, but we're going to talk about it in the connection of a relationship. And the kind of relationship we always talk about, of course, is that healthy. And of course, we always talk about, as you also know, a thriving relationship. So this is going to be around the helping, thriving relationship. So the self-love that we're talking about when it comes to reviving memories, that we're going to talk about some ways how you can revive those memories that bring that self-love in your relationship between both of you, and not just with you, between both of you, is the self-love, which is the spiritual. Okay, yeah, self-love and spirituality, they really go hand in hand. Again, self-love and spirituality really go hand in hand. When you grow your spiritual practice, meaning in your self-love, because it really is spiritually self-love, the kind of self-love we're talking about spiritually. When you grow that, you have to grow it in a spiritual way. You also have to grow that self-love and vice versa. So you got the self-love that has to do with your physical body, has to do with you taking care of yourself, eating right, which is understandable because you're a body. But we also understand that we're like a ghost in the machine, meaning we're also spiritual, or a spirit, some people will say, and however your belief system is. So then we have to be concerned about that spiritual part of that self-love. We have to be concerned about how are we connecting to who we are spiritually in loving that part of us. What do you think about that so far, Sharon?
I think you are hitting it right on the, what did they say, the nail on the head. And because when a lot of us do not want to speak of the spiritual side of us. We will talk about, I went to church today, but we don't really get into what that spiritual side of us meant to us and what it means to us. And we need to share that too, because that is a part of us, and that is a part of that love for us. And it doesn't have to be, it's whatever and however you delve into your spirituality.
And when we're going to talk about some ways of how you can dive into it, in this case, reviving memories will bring back that self-love or present that consciousness to you in the first place. So it's all about being good to yourself, learning to be comfortable in your skin, to love, honor, appreciate all, and accept all of yourself, the good parts and the not so good parts.
Okay, we won't say that.
Yeah,
okay,
we won't say that.
The parts that need improvement.
Exactly. It's a more holistic approach. Yeah. Again, when it comes to thriving and healthy relationship, there's no such thing as perfect whatsoever. And so we're talking about balance here. The spirituality is all talking about balance. And, we always feel that friendship, a very strong way to build a relationship, a long-term relationship. We're talking about true friendship now, not associates, is a way to be able to do that. In that self-love, that spirituality comes out of that friendship, or what we usually say, unconditional love. So now that we know it's the good and the bad parts that we're talking about self-love in a thriving relationship. So this is all about, if you're, as Sharon said, you might be feeling not too well. You may feel ran out, okay?
Or ready to run out.
Or ready to run out, meaning you don't have much self-love left in this relationship. A lot of surviving relationship, there's not much self-love going on whatsoever.
When one way you can figure this out is when every little thing irritates you.
Yes.
If someone comes in the house, your partner comes in the house and says, "Hey, how you doing?" and you have a short, snappy answer for that, then you can kind of understand from that you're not really loving yourself too much.
Yeah, a short, snappy
because
answer.
It's not them, it's you.
Exactly.
And so that's where something needs to be worked on as far as that's concerned.
So those are the times where you feel like you're not connecting with being who you are from the standpoint of loving yourself as a spiritual person, a being. Yeah. Really, some people say loving yourself from within.
Right.
A lot of us, spend that other self-love part when it comes to on the outside, how good we look on a physical body, which is just as important too. But we don't spend much time to find out who are we from within,
right.
And loving us from within is very, very important. And that's what we're talking about. We're going to talk about bringing those memories back to actually help us have that self-love from within. Spiritual self-love is a beautiful way to incorporate more love in your life. Again, spiritual self-love is a beautiful way to incorporate more love in your life. And everybody wants to have more love in life, don't you?
I definitely do. And there is and that's one of those things that we both strive for. And one of those things that
the laptop here.
And one of those things that we all need.
Okay, I'll leave it alone.
I was just
because it looks like it's getting ready to slide off.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And that's one of those other things. Self-love. Sometimes you just need to leave well enough alone. So
I don't understand that one.
I don't either. But
I
I
really
just,
don't.
I didn't either. I was just trying to make a connection,
Oh, okay.
which was a horrible connection. But hey, at least anyway.
Okay.
That's me and my silliness.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
in loving, part of that silliness of self is very, very important. As long as it's not hurting someone else,
Yeah.
or it's not, going through the process of laughing at somebody, or not you being able to
Exactly.
laugh at your own self.
Right. Right.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So let's talk about that beauty that's incorporated more in your life, that spiritual self-love we're talking about. What is that self-care? The definition, that's what we call it. Okay, when you're looking at the spiritual side, not the other self-love that's on the outside. We're talking about the inside self-love that we were referring to. So we'll call it spiritual self-care.
Right.
Okay. So looking at trying to deal with that self-love in the inside, who you are in the inside as a spirit, as a being, a child of God, however you may want to say, that's very, very important of doing that self-love and care for yourself. We call it spiritual self-care. So the definition of spiritual self-care is any ritual or practice that we do to further our connection with our higher self. Again, it is any ritual or practice that we do to further our connection with our higher self. What are the things, I want you to just think about it. What are the things that you are doing to help connect yourself with your what? Higher self. Your spirit.
Your inner being.
Your inner being, yes. What are you doing? What are some of the things you're doing? I think the first thing that comes to my mind, probably some people are doing, they're saying that they're what? They pray. Okay?
Yes.
You see, I think that's a usual practice that's used in this area when it comes to connecting themselves, is praying. Praying to the God, the gods, or the goddesses, or whatever it may be.
Yes.
But they're praying, using that connection from the inside or speaking outside, so that in turn who they believe as a God starts to connect with them and speak to them back in return, to give them some kind of insight of what? Who they are from the inside. Yeah. What you think about that?
That's one of the things that we're taught when we're little kids, regardless of what religion or whatever we are involved in. We're taught that from little kids, and that's one of those things that grow up in us. And we always, no matter what, we find ourselves doing some type of prayer upkeep.
Which we should.
Exactly. And that too is invoking that self-love, or calling on yourself to love yourself. And you say, love yourself, and you mentioned it's who you are, as long as you're not lying to yourself. Because sometimes we're in denial and we don't realize how much, or we do realize how much we're not feeling ourselves. And at that point, what we end up doing is pretending. But then that's when we kind of take it out on somebody else.
Okay.
Because we're not feeling good about ourselves. And that's when you need to start looking into the spiritual self-care in earnest. Really going in and saying, understanding that something is wrong, something is off, something is not as it should be or as it needs to be. And the spiritual self-care is the road to pop into.
Yes, exactly. So that road of self-care is, again, starting in a relationship, relating to someone else. It starts with you. That's the key thing you have to understand. That self-love has to start with you. And starting with you, you are checking out what's in you, what makes you who you are, why you are who you are. That's what we're talking about. So with that, you'll have a better understanding and a better way and a better feel of what? Loving you. Because you know who more you are.
Yes, exactly. And that's where everything's, because you're more comfortable with yourself. You're more comfortable with your decisions. You're more comfortable with your thought processes, and it's more accepting of all of those. If you if you're comfortable with who you are, if you know who you are, if you're loving who you are. But even in that, that there's room for change and room for growth and expansion. Because just because you love yourself where you are does not mean that's as good as it gets.
Well, one thing is for sure, since we're talking about love in such a way that it exists as a energy. You're welcome. An energy that has to do with the connection of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You can also look at some outside kind of images that we look at as being love, and we usually connect it to the understanding of life.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at it from the understanding of life, life is about what? Most of the time, it's about growth.
Mm-hmm.
It's about moving forward, to expand.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So when you look and understand love in that way from the inside of connecting you, it's about you growing,
Mm-hmm.
you expanding,
Yes.
you being able to reach out beyond, guess what? You. And that's where you begin to enter into that area of a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You start out loving you, finding out more of you, because that's very, very
Mm-hmm.
important. And when you become more in love with you and who you are, and finding out from that spiritual self-care, then you find that that overflowing amount of love is able to spill out to others.
And it's got to go someplace.
Yes.
And you know, it's kind of like when you pour coffee into a cup and you're not paying attention,
Mhm.
and it just keeps pouring, it overflows. It's got to go someplace. It's not, it can't stay in the cup. The cup is not bottomless.
Mhm.
So it's in the saucer, it's on the counter, it's on the floor. Well, that's the same thing with that love. You know, if you love yourself that much, just as you were saying,
Mhm.
you know, and it starts overflowing, it's going to flow into you.
Mhm.
It's going to flow into the children. It's just going to flow into everything around you, people that you see on the street. And it's a beautiful thing.
I think we get sometimes mixed up and cross, especially when it is used in the survival relationship,
Mhm.
which is that self-love is mostly from the outside, the physical,
Mhm.
you know, how I
Yes.
look, how I talk,
Mhm.
maybe even the color of my skin,
Yes.
where I came from, what pedigree I have.
Mhm.
And that becomes more of a self-centered way.
Right.
You find that the energy that's involved with that is not an expansion. It's not a growing one.
Mhm.
It mostly only, how can I say it, only explores those things in energy wise that only exert and uplifts who? You. And that's it.
It settles.
Okay.
It does not, you know, it does, because as we were talking earlier, love is energy. I think you even said that.
Mhm.
Love is energy, and energy is always in motion. But if it's confined to
Mhm.
just you, it settles. It can't bubble up and overflow
Mhm.
because you're keeping it to you.
So
it's like, I look good and
so
I need this.
You just settling just on you then.
Yeah.
So is that why sometimes in the morning you get up, look in the mirror, and you look like you say, I look good, and I'm look so this way, and then walk out. I know where you go. No, I'm just joking.
I was getting ready to say, who is this?
But I mean, you look in the mirror every day for getting yourself prepared to go to school. So
Yeah, I
you
have
can
to,
see yourself more in the mirror than me, and probably most people are listening
Yeah.
to it at the same time.
Yeah.
What do you see when you look in the mirror in the morning? You see the woman in the mirror, not
No,
the man in the mirror.
I see the woman who would love to go back to sleep, but I'm not a morning person.
Okay.
But
You really spoiled that one.
no, but no, seriously, I do see.
Mm-hmm.
I see. What's the best way for me to say
I don't
this?
know. Try it.
I see happiness.
Okay.
I see joy.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I'm not a morning person,
Mm-hmm.
I get up in the morning and I think about where I'm going and I'm rejuvenated.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that love for what I'm doing and where I'm going and who I'm going to see and all of that overall and who I might touch.
I want to stop real quickly, folks who are getting this information. Is something new for you when it comes to a relationship, especially when it comes to a thriving, healthy relationship. We're talking about the spiritual part of a relationship that has to do with that spiritual self-care, which is also loving of self or self-love. We're just talking about more from the inside, not just the outside. Please share that with your family, your friends, and your enemies too. But no, share that with couples that you know that need this too at the same time. We want you to make sure that you share it. We also are on 107.5.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. Well, 107.5. I don't know what happened to
I don't
WRUU every Saturday. Right in Savannah, Georgia.
Yes.
But we also can get us online too. I don't know if our engineer knows where that button is, but let me see if I can push it up here. There it is. Yeah, so you can get us on WRUU. You can see our website address there for WRUU on Saturday mornings, where you can learn and hear some other elements that we talk about thriving relationships. Um, the understanding of self-love, starting with yourself, was something that was very not new to me, but it was never comfortable because of how most of the time it was displayed. It was more an outside love thing. It was more how you look, how you smell, color of your skin, the kind of car I had, all that kind of outside stuff. And I
Things
never
that led to popularity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it never felt good to me from the inside. And knowing that the inside, how you feel, is more important and brings that grounding and that comfortableness in your purpose and who you are in life. Whether it be a purpose, could be as simple as, hey, I'm going to be a good dad. I'm going to be a good mom. I'm going to be a good plumber, whatever it may be. But it's going to come from that inside confidence that you have a purpose and a reason for being here on this earth. So in this relationship side, when you are looking at that spiritual self-love, we're talking about that self-care, we have to look at doing some practices to connect us to that higher self, which is what we're leading to. The practice of self-care. You can expect to have to nurture your connection of yourself and for that higher power. You're going to have to create spiritual practices that fuel your body and your soul. So we're talking about, you're going to have to do some things that are practices that are done by others. We're talking about you two, to help connect you to your spiritual part, especially if you've been dealing with mostly your outside body part and you really haven't dealt with much of who you are on the inside. You're going to have to understand that the same kind of exercise, same kind of sweat, the same kind of food, and all that good stuff, you're going to need to now to get more love by connecting it to those things that are necessary for you to connect to who you are from the inside, your spirit, who you are, child of God, whatever you may want to call that. You are going to have to connect to that inside thing.
Yes. And I'm connecting to that inside thing right now because something is troubling me on the inside. And I'm going to have to step back to it for just a second. And that is when you were talking about us being on WRUU. And you called out the call numbers, and I said, no, we're not. I apologize for that, because in my head, I had those numbers switched around, and I'm like, oh, no, that can't be it. It wasn't what I was thinking. And so I do apologize for jumping in and making that, throwing things off that way.
Oh, that was so awful. I think she took off the show.
I think so too.
I mean, I just don't care about. No.
I'm going to sit in the chair of shame.
Chair of shame. So that kind of tongue in cheek is also understanding from the inside. I could love myself even when it's a tongue-in-cheek matter, meaning it's not something that's so serious that you can love yourself in such a way that even though it's not serious, I don't have to be serious all the time. Right.
But even if you can't acknowledge the simple things, the small things, the big things, you can forget about it.
Yeah.
So that's a part of self-love too.
Yeah.
You get to, be comfortable enough to say, oops, I was wrong. I made a mistake. And, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, and just the fact that self-love is not talked about in a spiritual self-care that has to do with the inside, then many people don't know that. Many people operate. There was once upon a time we didn't operate that way. And you could see in a relationship when you're not operating that way, then you're always pointing fingers at the other.
Exactly.
You're not being love enough for me. You're not my right lover. Really one of a lover anyways, but a friend. But anyway, but you say those things because you feel that there's something missing in your life. You feel like all the time in your life people have come against you, said something bad about you, or I just have did good things, the best things I could put in life, and that true love, that real love is just not coming to me. And I care about being and feeling love for my own self, and my mate is not really giving me that. It could have been that maybe your family member wasn't giving you that. Your mother or father couldn't be giving that. Your children may not give you that. But inside you feel that missing piece. That missing piece that we're talking about has to do with that inside feeling. And so what's missing is knowing who you are as a spirit, who you are as a being. And this is
loving that.
Exactly. And loving that too. Good or bad. And so now we're talking about how to be able to do that in our relations, how we make that connection. And when you do these spiritual practices, they're going to help fuel your body in your soul. That means that mind and that emotions, which makes up what I feel makes up your soul. You're going to get fueled, and that's what we're so a love rooted in spiritual connections that help you find meaning and purposes in our lives. So I'll say it again: spiritual love can refer you to a love rooted in a spiritual connection that helps you find meaning and purpose in life. Do you think in a relationship, marriage, or a relationship or partnership, hopefully long term, that there should be any concern about purpose?
I should
In the
hope
meaning of
so.
purpose?
I should hope so. Because, I
Really?
mean, why would you engage in anything that has no meaning behind it, that has no reason to it? You know, where are you going to go without purpose? How will you know if you're going anywhere without
Mhm.
purpose? And so, and that's, that's just one of those um, things. And maybe we take those for granted
I think
sometimes.
most of the time we
Yeah.
take those for granted.
Mhm.
The marriage route, we actually spoke some supposed to be sacred words.
Mhm.
Do you remember them at all? A couple of them.
I remember a lot of them.
Well, go
And-
ahead,
and-
sister. Tell me what they were.
And the reason I remember a lot of them is because I used to do weddings, and so
Okay.
I heard it
Give us a
many
couple.
times. To honor,
Mm-hmm.
to cherish,
Mm-hmm.
um, and as I paraphrase, to always be together, and that's kind of like always, being
Mm-hmm.
as one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's some of them.
You know, the guys who may be listening, because I can see some guys like to listen to this. They probably think, yeah, they're gonna remember. We probably forget, but you know what popped in my mind was one of the words: through sickness
And
and
in
death and in health.
Yes.
I always thought that saying was kind of like the post office would say, post mail,
through sleep, and
snow
and rain, and hail.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get your mail.
But you know what?
What?
That's not always true.
That's true. In relationships, hey, it didn't happen that way. I mean, even you think about ours, there's been many times we weren't necessarily there for one another on that side of not being perfect. And one of the things you thought inside, well, that person who married me, who's supposed to be special to me, and here they're either not being standing up for me in the public, or in the house he's cussing me out, or on the street. I'm going to get the procession. My family is better than you, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And so you're automatically thinking that this other person doesn't love me, never did love me. They never were about loving me. And so you were all along trying to gauge love, make love, create love. What do you mean want to call it? And it had to be based on them.
Yes.
And if it wasn't coming from them, then you're like, well, I don't know where that comes from. I don't know what's that whatsoever.
Yes, because nobody is taught really, or it's never really talked about how to take the love that you have for yourself and share it with somebody else. The love you have for yourself is supposed to be yours. Hoard it, keep it. It's all yours.
It's the wrong kind of love.
Exactly.
It's the outside love. It's on the inside
And
love.
so that's why you get into the situation where, you don't want to give any of your love, but you want them to give
let me use another word. I won't use the wrong kind of love if I put it in a loving way that it is not the full expansion of love.
There you go.
Spirituality, that's kind of spiritual care. Gives you and brings you more of an expansionness of love, which is what we talked about before. Maybe your kind of way of loving someone in your own self way doesn't seem to be working, doesn't seem to be enough. Well, we're talking about the kind of love that comes from the inside, that's an expansion that brings more of an understanding, and of course will bring more love to you and bring more love in this particular case as it spills over in your relationship. And if the other person has that same belief system, has that same feeling, then you can imagine what both of you two in ebb and flow will do for one another and do for the world too at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And and once you find that out, it's almost like an epiphany, and it just opens you up. And it opens you up to really see your partner in a different light. It's like all of a sudden somebody opens the curtains, pulls back the drapes, and you're like, oh, wow, what a beautiful person that is. And that beautiful person is connected to me and sharing with me. And so you can start living in that once you take off the blinders of your spirit, of your love.
The need to understand the spiritual nature of self-care is a spiritual understanding of life that has everything to do with growing, that you could see a lot in nature itself. And if you spend a lot of time in nature and you look at it in that current state of now, meaning you pay attention to it. Some people say, smell the roses or look at the rose in the sidewalk, whatever it is. But if you do spend that time,
stop and smell the roses.
Exactly, you will find the abundance of love that is shared back to you in that nature.
Yes.
Could be beautiful flowers. It could be the dog that you love. It could be maybe seeing your children out there playing. I remember when I was younger, younger meaning my first set of kids that I had. And I remember one of my daughters, when I would take them out to a park or something and let them go and play. Now, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't play with them sometimes, but there was sometimes where I just let them play with themselves or other particular people. Did you notice, especially when they play with other children, that kind of love you felt for your daughter or your son, just watching them play, their creativity, their spontaneousness, their silliness, and their freeness of being able to do that on the spot? It reflected back to you a love that came out of them, that in turn was coming to you. You didn't have to necessarily say, well, stop that until I give you this love. You can't do this by yourself. What do you know about love? No, they just automatically did it with their young self without having all that burdens and connections that we as adults have that really ain't about really loving ourselves, to be honest with you, as we pack it on in our years of innocent goals. But that love is so pure. That love is so connective to us as another human being watching them. And that's the kind of love that begins, and hopefully now will get you to understand that love comes from out of them.
Yes.
And that's the kind of love that you can still cherish and you can still have for yourself. And it's really always been in you.
Exactly. And kids have that kind of free love. You can be sitting there feeling all kinds of negativity. And, a child can come up to you and for no apparent reason that you can tell from where you are, snuggle up to you and just change the whole dynamics of what you're feeling, but we can do that also as adults, as a partner, and we do it with our children, but we don't do it so much with our partners.
And that's where that next bridge is all about when it comes to relationship. Is we see that in our children, but many times we do not see that in the partner that we're with. We don't see that kind of love in them. And therefore, because we don't see that kind of love that you see in the children, we think to ourselves, they ain't no love for me. They really don't love me. Not understanding that even when you saw that love for those children or your children, again, you don't go up to them and say, stop sending me that love. Stop giving that feeling of love because I ain't gave it to you.
but look at this. You have, you can see your children and your children, one of them is sitting there like this. They're not doing what they usually do. First thing you're going to do is pull them to you and say, baby, what's wrong? If it's your partner that you see down in the dumps, the love is imploding instead of exploding. When was the last time you went to that person, to that partner of yours, pull them close and said, baby, what's wrong?
See, now you are jumping ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But thank you for doing that, because my next segue is all about how that love that is in you, knowing who you are, then is about to be shared.
Yes.
See, those young folks, being our children, they just automatically share love.
Exactly.
They don't see much resistance or why not to. And that means from different colors. That means from even some. I mean, we saw on TV that young guy who was a son, and he had the elephant's disease. We had cancer in his face, like all the way
tumors,
all over his face. Yes. African American, and his two brothers just treated him, cousins, they treated him with so much love. They paid no attention to his outside form whatsoever.
They would play with him. They would take him
exactly.
out places. And one of them said, we just love being around him.
Exactly.
You know, we enjoy that. And it's like there is that love because they're comfortable enough inside with who they are.
And he showed that love back in return. You could tell by his voice and his actions that his outside appearance was not affecting him directly in connection to who he was as a person, as a being. Well, not just within, you can tell in the world. Well, no doubt about it. I mean, when you, and we're talking about that because that's the next thing is when you're flowing in that love and you're putting it out there, you're going to draw people. That's true. You're going to draw people who see that same kind of love and vibe with you. They're going to want to in turn connect back with you. And that's a part of love I was going to talk about. I wrote down that spiritual love can serve different purposes. Yes. Some of that spiritual love is meant to walk with us through life, while others are meant to teach us in life, and others teach us lessons. And yes, these kind of loves are people. Are people. Yeah. So your mate could be in your life. I would say they are. If you are a thriving or healthy relationship, they are in your life to what? Teach you lessons. Or what was the other one I said? Walk with you through life. It could be both. It could be both. Yes. Usually if you do the marriage thing, you said to death do we part. Yes. That's part of walking with that person in life, through life. So there's that love that's in your life that is one of those many loves that we get in our life to teach us or walk with us both. Now, here's one of the loves that we usually know, especially if it's us males. We usually say our mom is one of the ones who's been our love in our life. I mean, I know guys who they're buying houses, they're buying cars, they're doing whatever you can think of for the love of their life, being their mama or their mom. Now, you know what I'm talking about.
Son, if you're watching this,
get her something. No, anyway, but you understand what I'm saying. Exactly. That particular individual, that particular person, we definitely will look at as being that love person in our life that was on the path to walk and love us. It's too bad we don't get enough, especially in the African-American community, not enough males, but there are some black males out there. I know I tried my best as a father with my children. And I know there are a lot of fathers I know now talking to who are doing their best to be that love path for their sons or for their daughters to show that to them in their life. And then most of the time, if you're a father, you're going to be with them for the rest of your life anyway, whether you like it or not, or whether they like you or not. From that end,
But see, here's the one thing about that. Mothers have been taught that they are supposed to be nurtured. And so therefore they have to, they learn how to, or we learn how to build up that love for our children early on. And it just keeps building. Well, the problem is we focus it on the children instead of on the partners and everybody within the family unit, And but males are taught to corral their feelings, which means that they are also corralling that love. They're also, keeping everything boxed in. And so from that standpoint, it's not as easy for them to allow that love to bubble over to their children. And I'm not saying all men. I'm just saying this is the case in some men, and for some women too, because there are some women that have blocked off love so much that they have nothing basically that they want to share positively with their children. The negativity that they throw out to a neighbor is the same negativity that they throw out in the house.
Yes.
And so this is not an all one way or all the other way. This is the case in this is some cases. This is the norm for a lot of people. So we have to understand that if we are dealing with a father who does not share or
he just expresses emotion because he was taught not to express his emotion
and does not give it to that
it's like
that
I'm trying
child.
to express mine now.
Exactly. and does not give it to that child.
And you,
It's the,
and you nurture me very well.
it's,
I like that
but
touch.
it's
That's
the,
not bad.
thank you.
Thank you,
But,
Mom.
but it's the wife
Is that,
or the
is that what you
partner
did
or
to your
the,
son too? Did you calm
I
him down like
didn't.
that?
I didn't.
Or did you beat him a lot? No, no, I'm just joking.
Every day, 7, 8 times a day. No,
He's kind of hard headed, isn't he?
no, he was just he was
He's just so different.
he was not the one.
You were not the one.
He was not the one. Okay, it was that other one. But
Exactly. You were correct. It was the daughter who was very strong-willed.
very strong-willed.
Exactly.
But I loved her strong will.
But I think
But-
I think the point that you're referring to
Yeah.
is I see a lot of younger men who are more open to express their feelings.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And a lot
But
of their
it's our generation where that problem
but
is.
if there is,
Yeah.
but that's because they have been given the opportunity that their feelings are important. But I think it's all been under that self-help called self-love thing that's filtered to them, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And some men say when they act that way, they're being more like boys, women,
Yeah.
and then they all being like
that's
men,
taboo.
and that's taboo. So the idea that man can cry is no, I ain't no
Yes.
man. You're not being an alpha
Yes.
man. When
But
when express like I'm doing right now,
Mhm.
I'm not crying over it, but expressing your emotions and how you feel is very important. There have been great men who have expressed emotion and feelings with their hands, their face, and their eyes.
And their tears.
And I'm gonna give you one that you know of very well, and you'll say, "Wow, when you said that, Imar, when you said that, Mr. Butts, I can understand that way very well." Hear this right now. Brother Malcolm X was a very expressive man of his feelings and his emotions. He expressed them in such an intellectual / spiritual purpose way as a high-level street preacher. That is an example for you of a brother. In fact, his expression was so clear and so well, and how it hit from the most intelligent to the less intelligent. There are some people who, in turn, didn't quite like it, and to the point of hating him and want to see him kind of leave this earth from that particular end. So, no, brothers, you can express yourself. No, I didn't start with Martin Luther King because we know he did. I wanted to give you someone who we think is being street tough, that don't cry. Some people say who knew him personally that when he laughed and he made jokes, because he did, every bit of his emotion and his facialness was out, and you would know it was true about him. So I'm just saying to you, brothers, I'm not saying to you, men, expressing yourself, you have a right to do it, and you can do it even without crying, even though I know she says it's all right to have tears.
It is. And and women, we are really guilty of that. We can cry a river, lake, and ocean, but let a man, our man, the one that we say we love so much, so much that he'll never know, let him, bat his eyes, do this or something like that at a moment when it's, okay. That weak man, he's too weak and he's blah this and he's blah that. No, if he does that, make it okay. Give him a hug. Give him, let him know, I understand where your pain is coming from. I'm feeling it too. Let's cry together if we need to. Make it okay. And that's where we go wrong. We don't make it okay for our husbands or partners to cry. And if that's the case, what we're saying to our sons is they can't do it either.
I don't know why crying has to be the go or no go in this matter.
I don't either.
Why you keep on saying there's all kinds of emotions in between?
Exactly. There definitely is, but that's kind of one of my pet peeves.
Well, that is a status quo that they put out. That in the book that was written about men, crying, all the good stuff. There's so many emotions in between that men don't share with their spouse or with someone they love, that we also need to focus on that gamut, because this is about balance and not necessarily extremes.
Sure,
so I'm just saying that I just have been. Everything I'm talking about is part of that. A smarty. So, sometimes you got to express yourself in such a way and call them smarties. Don't use the other word, because it won't be cool. You might get smacked. But, you know what I'm talking about. And so I just think it's important, because when you are able to express yourself as a male, there's one of the main bases that we talk about in the relationship that the foundation is based on. What's that?
Friendship.
Yes. Remember, one of your best girlfriend, I'm talking about as a male, was a girlfriend that you could say anything to. Your emotions beyond just crying, you could do. Now, you know you could do that, but it's beyond that. That was your best girlfriend, your best girl, your street, whatever you may want to call your riding, whatever. Some of you males had those, and you know that.
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't marry one like that, sadly, but I just say because you didn't have much love for yourself to understand that you had a right to find someone like that. And they would have been open in the same way about loving themselves. And therefore, you both would have had a relationship that was thriving, balancing. But it doesn't mean that you can't start from here and move that direction and have that in your relationship.
As we learned, the Gullah Geechee people say, day clean.
Day clean.
Started fresh today.
Yeah.
Every day is an opportunity for you to do things different and better.
Okay, we got a couple of minutes left. Our engineer is still there. I think we got 3 minutes left before they close the show. We have not even begun to get into the reviving your memories. Reviving your memories. Okay, reviving your memories. Oh, how many is that for? Oh, I forgot. We did start late, but we still, even though we start late, we still got to go to 6 because we got another program on.
Okay.
So we got no more than 2 or 3 minutes. I hope our engineer back there knows that too.
Or let us know how much time we definitely have left before.
We do. I'm looking at the clock here. It looks like it's 6:57, but we only have 47 because we started late, sure. So trust me. Trust in that, man. I love to go for longer too. I'm supposed it's out there, someone to listen to, but we have to give respect to other people that come up on that show too. So we're going to be talking about next, what are some reviving ways to revive the memories of your relationship? Some of us remember we had good memories of our relationships at the beginning. That courtship time, that marriage time, that honeymoon time they came. It was very beautiful. It was very loving. And we forgot it. Kids, jobs, and everything else. We're like, I ain't in love with that person, like I did the first time.
What was I thinking?
Including me. I ain't feeling loving about me anymore. And so I don't know why you gave that voice. But anyway, that happens. And we are talking about in the thriving relationship to upgrade or revive it is all about trying to look at that spiritual part of you, that spiritual care that's in you, or knowing you in you, and in turn reviving that again, bringing it back to remembrance, or creating something, expanding something new in that relationship where both of you can enjoy that together and walk in a balanced, thriving, healthy relationship, which is very, very important.
It's kind of like what we did the other day when it didn't intend to, it just kind of happened, and we picked up you came across a picture from our past, and it was like, oh wow, do you remember when we did this? And and it started a conversation that took us back down memory lane, but it was really good memories.
Very good memories. We're kind of getting to the edge. We just don't want to get over it. The next time that you get back with the next Thursday live, hopefully this time the studio will be fixed. It will start at 6 o'clock. We will talk about some of the memories that you can do, some of the things that you can do to actually in turn create what you need to do in your relationship and bring back that self-love for yourself and for the other partner. Until next time, hey, God bless. Be who you are and what you are, and love that person you're with all friendship and everything that you have in the balance. Thank you. Until next time. I hope next time. Go ahead, engineer.